Hey guys, what's up? It's me, the Meteoraptor. Do you guys remember Tales from the Crypt?
Tales from the Crypt.
I mean, who doesn't? For those of you who don't know or don't remember the show, Tales from the Crypt was that awesome horror show on HBO in the 90s, based on CW's popular comics of the same name and a movie of the same name. The show was a horror anthology series bookended by the Crypt Keeper. Yeah, this creepy little guy, voiced by John Kassir, he would open and close each story with some hilariously bad puns.
I tell you, ladies and germs, that ghoul friend of mine makes me so crazy. She told me she thought she'd look good in something long and flowing. So I threw her in the Mississippi. I know you're out there, folks. I can hear you bleeding. All right, creeps. It's Fourth and Ghoul. They're probably expecting us to run a ghost pattern.
Yeah, the show ran for 7 amazing seasons, and before ending in '98. A lot of people say that season 7 was by far the weakest, but to be honest, I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun season. It moved to England, so of course, you know, the acting was certainly different, but it did have some unique ideas, and also it had the most twisted series finale ever put to a show. Yeah. During its run, it also got 2 theatrical films and a straight-to-video release, those being Demon Knight, which I've reviewed for this channel, Bordello of Blood, and Ritual, which however has not been released on Blu-ray, or has not been very much released on DVD itself. Anyhow, it's a fantastic show, and it's actually been recently announced that M. Night Shyamalan, of all people, is coming back to revamp Tales from the Crypt in an all-new TV show. Now, I don't really know what I feel exactly about this, and I'd rather not talk about that right now, cause it could be good, it could be bad. You know what? Maybe I'll just make a separate video talking about that. Anyhow, Tales from the Crypt is an awesome show, and still continues to be one of my all-time favorite shows. If you haven't seen it, go give it a watch. So until next time, guys, this is the Meteoraptor saying... Wait, what? What?
Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
No! No! Oh man, why? No! No! Why would you do that? No, you've gotta be kidding me! Oh my gosh, you guys, and I thought Day of the Diesels was dumb! Ah, that joke doesn't make any sense because that reviews it now again. Oh! Why? Oh! That was my initial reaction to finding out that this thing existed. And to be honest, it's kind of justified. I mean, come on, you guys. That's like making a kid's cartoon off of RoboCop or Mortal Kombat. I hate you guys so much. But surprisingly, was it really that bad? No, actually, it wasn't. Sure, it was nowhere near as good as Tales from the Crypt, but it's still fun in its own way. The humor was sharp, and the animation was pretty good for its time, and the stories worked, and from a spooky storytelling standpoint, kinda like its own little version of Goosebumps. But to be fair, the best part was always the theme song. I don't care what you say, this theme song is amazing. But was the show as awesome as the theme? Well, where do we start? Well, let's knock this out of the park right now. It's a kids show. Yeah, so there's no blood, there's no nudity, there's no swearing, heck, there's not even that many scary stories. While they do have spooky stories, and I do mean suspenseful, and quite a few I'm surprised they actually got away with, we end up having some rather ridiculous stories. Stuff like a retelling of Sleeping Beauty. But to balance it off, we have episodes like Pleasant Screams. So the stories do work, but what surprised me the most were the Crypt Keeper segments at the beginning and the end.
Greetings! Today on Culture Crypt, we present a selection from one of the classics. I'll just scare the pants off them.
The Crypt Keeper was still voiced by John Cassier, amazingly, and they do an amazing job. But he's not alone this time. Starting in Season 2, we are introduced to the Old Witch and
Your glamorous and ghoulish gal pal, the Old Witch!
the Vault Keeper.
If it's in the paper, it must be true.
Voiced by Elizabeth Hanna and David Hemberman. These two characters, for those of you who didn't read the comics, were the other two who were part of the original trilogy of characters who introduced the stories. However, much like the comics, the Old Witch, the Vault Keeper, and the Crypt Keeper would often fight over who could introduce the stories, and in the cartoon series, it was the same.
It's my show and my ball.
Winner hosts today's show.
Over my live body, Vault Keeper.
However, occasionally Vaulty and the Old Witch would end up taking over the stories.
Well, since I'm in the news, I'll just have to bite the bulletin and deliver a juicy bit of journalism from the obituaries I call...
I call all the gory details.
But every time they did, you knew that the Crypt Keeper was going to come back and make them pay in a hilarious way.
Have you checked out this month's Slime magazine? Field and Scream? Or best of all, Readers Digested!
While the intro and outros were always great fun, and 79 of the stories were fun, we did have stories with some pretty heavy-handed messages in their stories. And yes, I do get the show was for kids, and you wanted to have good morals and all, but it was still kinda heavy-handed. But the first two seasons were great fun. Then we got the new Tales from the Crypt Keeper, and this is where things started to go downhill. You want to know how long that the break between Season 2 and New Tales from the Crypt Keeper, aka Tales from the Crypt Keeper Season 3 was? 5 years. It took them 5 years from the ending of Season 2 to make this. And did it help them? Well, yes and no. While the animation is better in some places, it looked too cartoony in most of the time though. Mainly the humans, but the stories did have one thing that was vastly better and simultaneously disastrous. The writing. See, in those 5 years, TV kinda changed, and people were allowed to kinda do a little bit more with a kid's horror show. Yeah. So at this point though, the show went from being scary to scary and educational. Every episode's plot has a very blunt message to it, which the entire plot revolved around. Things like don't lie, skipping school is bad, and know when pranks go too far, and other things like that. Also, we were just back to the Crypt Keeper. Although he was still voiced by John Cassier, he didn't even introduce the stories. Yeah, instead of that, they just literally started up like any old cartoon episode. However, the Crypt Keeper did show up a few times in the stories themselves, and he always came at the end to explain the moral to the kids who didn't understand. Or just to hammer it back in case we forgot it, but that would be next to impossible considering how blunt they were with it.
I guess you could say that. Thanks to his monstrous adventure, Evan finally learned fright from wrong. He found out that lies have a way of coming back to haunt you. Yes, boils and ghouls. Shauna learned a valuable lesson today. Perhaps you'd like to scare us with it, Sharon?
Sharon, share alike. Sharon, share alike.
Anyhow, the Crypt Keeper was also kind of responsible for quite a few problems in this show. Not, like, problems I didn't like, but plot problems. Like, he caused some of the plots to happen.
Well, those two have certainly made a mess out of things. Looks like it's up to yours, Ghoulie, to stir things up a bit.
Although one thing I do have to say about the Crypt Keeper, he always ends the episodes, at least in New Tales from the Crypt Keeper, in a rather unsettling way.
Until next time, this is the Crypt Keeper saying, creep out of trouble because I'll be watching.
I don't know. I guess they had good episodes and they had bad ones. But what I really think I have to complain about is the acting. And this goes across all 3 seasons. Okay, I'm gonna be fair, we have kids acting. Kids, I'm not gonna be too hard on them, because they at least tried. They actually did. And really, as bad as some of the child acting is, John Cassier, he never lets up. Once he gets into his whole Crypt Keeper face, I'm gonna call it, you know, that fugly mug, he just becomes the Crypt Keeper, and he never lets up. The Crypt Keeper, even in New Tales from the Crypt Keeper, he's firing off puns, he's cracking jokes, and he's still a great character. Although, I will say, there are a few times when he shows up in the story, I'm surprised that no one went, hey, isn't that guy dead? But actually, once or twice, someone did go, is he?
Hi guys, who's the new driver? He looks like a real stiff.
Yeah, whatever. So at least it was both kind of ignoring that blatant fact that the Crypt Keeper looked so drastically different from everything, but at the same time, they also managed to have fun with it. So, really? Anyhow, despite this all being a kid's show, based off a show that was meant mostly for adults, it had a certain charm to it. So really, can I recommend it? Yeah. It's a lot of fun. If you wanna, it's kind of bad in its own way, but it's also a lot of fun in its own cheesy way. If you wanna check it out, you can find all the episodes on YouTube or on iTunes. There also were some DVD releases, but honestly, they're rather incomplete, and the official Tales from the Crypt Keeper seasons are really expensive on Amazon. However, that's mostly because they've been out of print for a long time now. But Scream Factory, if you guys are watching this, if you guys want to make a really fast buck, I know you don't own all the rights to Tales from the Crypt, but find out whoever does, get the rights to the episodes from this and the original Tales from the Crypt show, and release a huge Blu-ray pack. You can make it cost like $170. I'll buy it, and I think a lot of people I know who are horror fans would buy it. So yeah, you guys, until next time, this is the Meteor Raptor saying keep cool, and
I'll be watching.
okay, that was weird. But yeah, keep cool, and I'll see you guys around. Later.